story for today is this story takes place in Vancouver, Canada, when a couple go on their vacation to visit family members that live there. They are traveling from Washington to Vancouver by plane. The female does not like to fly on planes, but that was the only way to get there where they had to go, so she sucked it up, takes a sleeping pill before she got on the plane, so when they started to go, she would be asleep. So for most of the part, it was working. She was getting sleepy on the plane. It was getting ready to take off. The husband was okay with flying and was nice and relaxed up until when the plane started to have trouble with one of the engines and it started to shake rapidly, go up and down. The mast shot down from the top ceiling and the pilot comes over the radio. Put on your seatbelts and masks. Plane is going to make an emergency landing. By now, all the people on the plane are screaming and crying, trying to contact family on their phones, but there's no connection. The guy's wife is starting to wake up, and she realizes what's going on, and now she is just freaking out, right? Because she hates planes as it is. Now, the plane is taking a nosedive towards a very big forest right outside Vancouver Island. The pilot is doing his best to keep the plane level out with only one engine, but this plane is going down at a rapid pace. It finally starts hitting the treetops and crashing through branches. The wings are starting to fly apart from hitting the trees after trees. It was now going to the ground at a pretty fast speed, and the back of the plane just tore off, and people were flying out the back of the plane. The people that listened and were seat belted in stayed in the plane all the way down to the ground. The pilot did his best to keep as many people alive as he could. Now the plane came to a stop, caught on fire right away. People were in a panic mode by now, jumping from the back of the plane, breaking legs and arms. He couldn't wait for the pilot to pull the emergency door and send out the balloon ladder and start to send people down as fast as he could until the plane was empty. Now, there are a lot of people hurt, but still alive. They are on a stranded island and had no idea where to go to get help. There were bodies all over the island from flying out of the back of the plane. There was one doctor on the plane, but at the moment he was hurt pretty bad. So the couple got out unharmed. They were Richard and Kathy. The pilot does his best to try and get everyone together that can walk and possibly help out the injured, but a lot of the passengers that didn't get hurt and got off the plane took off looking for help or a way off the island. Richard, who was a U.S. Marine, knew that it was going to get dark soon and they needed shelter to protect them from any animals that were in the forest. He starts to tell the people that are stuck around, we need to build shelters until we get found. We could be here for a while. So he does his best to help everyone build shelters they could stay in for the night. Then they will go up in the plane tomorrow and see what food is left on the plane. They all climbed in their shelters for the night, and Richard was smart. He had everyone build real close together, each in a circle to try and keep everything out, as he also built a huge fire in the middle to try to keep the animals out. While everyone is sitting in their shelters, you could hear off in the forest people screaming really loud, like they were in pain, like something was attacking them. People in their shelters were terrified, so Richard tells everyone to keep quiet and try and get some rest. Richard and Kathy had the doctor in their shelter trying to help him because Richard had first aid training And what he didn't know, the doctor could tell him how to do it. So he worked on the doctor half the night, and Kathy was still groggy from the sleeping pill she took, so she went right to sleep. They were still hearing what sounded like a huge monster attacking all the people that ran off into the forest. Nobody could help because they didn't have any flashlights, and it was so dark out there you could even see the next person sitting beside you except when the fire flamed up. So all the noise finally stopped, and everybody finally fell asleep. The next morning came, and everyone come out of their shelters, still scared to death and worried about what that was attacking the people that ran off. Richard tells them, "We can't worry about that right now. We have to try and get as much food out of the plane as we can and do it safely and quietly. So I need 2 guys to come with me, and when we are gone, everyone needs to collect as much wood as you can for the fire and make your shelters as waterproof as possible, because we have a really big storm coming above us, and it's going to be a very wet one." Richard also tells them to grab as many pine bushes as you can and cover the outside and top of your shelter. It will help keep the rain out and keep the heat in. The 3 guys head off towards the broken down plane, and the others get busy doing what Richard told them to do. Someone at the little camp that they built says to Kathy, "How does Richard know all that stuff?" Kathy says, "He's a U.S. Marine captain. We were on vacation." Everyone was like, "Thank God, we have someone that can help us survive until we get rescued." Kathy tells everyone here is going to have to pitch in if we want to survive this. Kathy also tells them that Richard can only tell you guys how to survive. It's up to each and every one of you to pull your own weight and do as he says with no bitching, because if you argue with him, he will stop helping you, and you will be on your own. So don't piss him off, okay? He's very easy to talk to, but he hates confrontation. After he tries to help someone, the guys show up back at the little camp, and Richard, amazed, everything was done just like he asked. Even the 2 guys were shocked that all the shelters were packed tight with pine bushes, and there was a huge stack of firewood piled up by the fire. Everyone comes out to see what they brought back from the plane. There was all kinds of food, and even a couple bottles of liquor, so when it started to rain later and gets cold, they have something to keep them warm. The ladies take all the food and start making up a meal for the group to eat. The guys also brought back some pots and dishware for them to cook with and eat off of. So, as the women were making food, all the guys decided to go for a walk around to see if they can find anyone wandering around still alive. But they didn't want to wander too far from the women. As they were walking, they could see blood everywhere. It looked like a massacre happened here, but there were no bodies anywhere. Whatever attacked them last night took the bodies with them. Richard says, "Guys, we have gone far enough. We should get back to the women." They all agree, and they all went back to camp in a hurry. The women right away asked, "What did you find?" One guy says, "It wasn't a pretty sight. There was blood everywhere, but no bodies." Now the women are terrified that something was going to attack them. Richard says, "I'm going to teach the men how to make weapons and traps around the camp, so if anything comes in, we will know right away." So as the women are cooking, men are making traps around the camp and weapons to defend them from whatever is out there, because it's coming. It's just a matter of time. So now it's starting to rain a little bit. The men set the traps and make a couple weapons each, for their shelters, and the women just finished making the food and packed all the other food in a hole that they dug and found a piece of metal by the plane and covered the food with it. They all got their food and went into their shelters. Now the rain is coming down even harder now, but the shelters are holding up and keeping the rain out. It's starting to get dark out when one of the traps go off and you could hear one of the loudest damn screeches you ever heard. They were all scared to death. These creatures were here. Richard looks out, you could still see a little bit. There were two of them, standing about 8 feet tall, covered in fur, and built like bodybuilders. They could swear they were looking at two Bigfoot, but they weren't sure because they ran off into the bush. Now, it's really late. One of the guys built the fire really big because it was raining out and they wanted to keep the creatures out of their sight. The next morning came and they could hear planes flying over top, so the guys started to build a very smoky fire to show them where they were. After 3 days, 2 nights, they were finally rescued, just in time, too, before the Bigfoot got to them as well. The rescue team came in and asked, "Where is everybody?" Kathy said, "Something got them out there. We heard the screaming." She also told them a lot of people flew out the back of the plane before we crashed, so they are spread out all over the island. They get them off the island and back home to safety. Thank you for listening.